Episode 4 Act 3 is starting off pretty strong so far. Everything's calm, Fade is integrating in nicely, there isn't an absurd gun or agent terrorizing the game on a daily basis. Life is good in the Valorant world so far. But with a new patch in the Act's lifecycle calls for a new tier list to rank all the agents. What is going on, ProGuides family? It's your host Sergeant Frost, and today we have the patch 4.09 rundown. Without further ado, let's get right into the tier list with the S tier. Well, would you look at that? The great duelist magician Jett has weaseled her way back into the top spot of the S tier, literally one patch after she got nerfed. Don't worry, you can put your pitchforks down. She's not in this spot because of her own doing. It's more on the other S tier agents shifting around that's caused her to move up one spot. Even post-nerf, Jett can still do Jett things contrary to what many people believe. But now that we know the dash change where you can get your dash kill resets even if you haven't dashed yet is intended, the nerf feels more like a buff for good Jett players. Jett isn't bad as an agent now. She just has counterplay and requires her user to have foresight and plan out their gunfights a few seconds in advance. But the rewards are way bigger. Once you master her new dash mechanics though, it's business as usual for Jett players. She can still smoke dash onto a site, fly around with her ultimate, and get cool looking multi-kills, and she can still ult to her little heart's content. Not even 2 weeks after Chamber claims the top spot in the S tier, Riot hits him in his kneecaps with their trusty nerf hammer. So what's going to change with him after the trademark nerfs? Well, most importantly, losing one of his trademarks means his area of control on the map is going to be much smaller than before. On offense, you're really going to have to commit to where you put this thing down to watch your flank. And on defense, you're going to have to decide to either use your trip close so that you can play off of it to get kills on sight, or if you're going to place it away from you to help out the team and have it watch an area while you patrol elsewhere. This nerf is not going to hurt Chamber too badly at all. He just now has to focus on aggressive tactics to make the plays he wants around the map instead of relying on his trips to catch people out like a fly trap. In reality, you don't really want to play Chamber too much like a sentinel anyways, but if you're using Chamber as the only sentinel on your team, then you might run into issues now. After a successful 2-week trial, Fade is being promoted on the job into the S tier. For all of you Sova traditionalists who are going to come at us in the comments for this ranking, you can now put down your torches. Just because she is ranked above Sova on the list does not mean she is overall a better agent than him, or that her info gathering utility is explicitly better than his. Fade is proving that she has found a niche in the meta as a great info gatherer on a small scale level, while also being a formidable defensive-minded agent due to the excess amount of CC in her kit. She's mainly being promoted into the S tier because her utility does the most disruption to a site out of all the initiators outside of Breach. But she does have a lot more flexibility when using her kit. She is also still a relatively new agent, so it's very hard to deal with her at the moment, since most people don't know how to counter her or play around her yet. That's why you'll see Fades tearing up games for the time being due to her novelty and also her unique playstyle. And if you're someone who's trying to learn how to play Fade at a high level or master other aspects of your gameplay, make sure to visit us at ProGuides.com, where our Radiant and Immortal level coaches are more than happy to teach you the secrets to climbing ranks. The link is in the description if you're interested, and let's head right into the A tier. The word of the day is suppression, people. Honestly, KO has no reason not to continue rising in the meta. Suppression is becoming too valuable of CC to not have on most team comps nowadays. KO is dominating games when he's picked into team comps, and that's given him priority over some duelists when it comes to picking team comps in ranked. Think about it. Would you rather have a Reyna that could either pop off or fall flat and coin toss your game? Or would you rather have a KO that can pick teams apart by taking their abilities away from them at key moments in the round? KO is becoming a mainstay in the meta because suppression can completely destroy an enemy team's plans, which is something other agents can't do. So unless KO gets nerfed, or a new agent with suppression comes into the game soon, expect him to become a mainstay in the meta. On deck in the number 2 spot in the A tier this patch, we have Viper. We are pleased to say that even after some slight nerfs she received in Act 2, Viper is still faring well in the meta. This is mainly due to the fact that her defensive prowess is still strong in its own right. But let's get to why Viper is slipping slightly on the list in 4.09, and the main reason can be pointed at the new agent Fade. In her own unique way, Fade has a way of soft countering Viper. Fade has several abilities that can reveal Viper behind her poison, which makes it a lot harder for her to play around her setups without risking being shot through her own smoke. On top of Fade becoming a new issue for Viper, the nerfs to her kit did force her to change her playstyle a bit because the gas doesn't stay up for as long as it used to when her wall and smoke were both active. It's harder for Viper to manage her normal setups now that her gas is shorter in lifespan, therefore making it less reliable than it used to be in the past. Nonetheless, Viper still deserves a spot in A tier for those who are trained on her and can use her well. I hate to say it, but Sova is starting to lose his throne as the best initiator hands down. Maybe it's because people have had the flavor of the month attitude since Fade was released, or maybe because some of those nerfs Sova experienced really did him in. Sova is falling a bit because Fade is starting to replace him as a semi-replacement to Sova now. It doesn't help that she's really good on maps that he was known not to be the best on, Both Split and Fracture come to mind. Other initiators like KO and Breach are picking up steam in the meta as good skirmishing initiators too, which means Sova is not being picked in Agent Select when it comes to what teams want in their team comps. He's still a great agent when used well, but now we're just experiencing the luxury of choice in the initiator class, and he's unfortunately not the first pick like he used to be. Omen is taking third place in the A tier this patch because he is 1, a really good and consistent controller, but secondly, he synergizes really well with Fade's kit. Omen brings round security to a team with fast and reliable smokes, and he has a blind that is exceptional on executes, and he has mobility to traverse the map quickly and get him out of sticky situations. Omen can create chaos because he is one of the more mobile smokers that can fend for himself. When he's well coordinated with his team, it will be hard to stop him in a lot of ranked games. Another formidable duelist that has a good place in the meta at the moment is Raze. Raze fills a niche that not many duelists can occupy, which is to deal loads of damage quickly and get in and out really fast. Raze might not have healing or flashes like most of the other duelists, but she can definitely hold it down when it comes to nuking small areas of the map with burst damage to push enemies off positions or straight up just kill them. And now that agents like Fade and Chamber are in the meta, Raze's nades take on a whole new level of dangerous when paired with abilities like Seize and Chamber's Trip, and that's why she's sitting pretty in the placements. Brim's hype did die down a bit after he got nerfed in Act 2. However, he's still a formidable smoker on maps where his kit has the potential to excel. Brimstone is a controller that really excels on attack, and that's mainly because his kit is designed for executes. He can drop 3 smokes at once, he has a stim beacon that makes people fast and shoot faster, and on top of that, he has a really strong post-plant presence with a strong molly and an even stronger ultimate. Brimstone doesn't have priority over Omen and Viper right now in most situations, but he isn't an unwelcome pick either and still holds considerable power with the right team. Closing out the A tier this week, we have Neon being promoted into the new tier. After her changes last patch, it gave a lot of players a reason to try her out. The duelist class overall is not in the best of spots right now, with several agents on its roster being quite underwhelming, which has given Neon some space to shine as a unique duelist. The reason she's at the bottom of A tier is because at VCT Iceland, teams have shown that Neon has some really strong uses when teams coordinate their plans and map movements around her. Teams like Optic Gaming are running her very often in their pro matches. She has the potential to be even higher if not for the wall change that actually nerfed her a little bit. She is a strong agent in her own right, but it feels like she plays very differently from most of the agents, and that's why people are hesitant to pick her up and learn her at the moment. Yoru. I will admit after his rework, Yoru is very quickly becoming my favorite duelist in the game. He has so much potential to express a player's skill level and outplay people that it gets addicting to play him once you get really good at him. Outside of me singing high praises for the Japanese duelist, why is he in B tier despite being revered by many in the community? It mainly boils down to even though he's potentially the next big agent in the duelist class, he still doesn't have much representation in the pro scene and it's very hard to see his upper limit. Yoru does seem to have a lot of potential with Fade, and hopefully he sees more play in the future in pro play and the higher elos of ranked. In solo queue, he can be a monster if a true Yoru man gets his hands on him in a game, but it's really the same old excuses of most people not learning him, so no one truly knows how good he can be at the top levels. There is a bit of good news for Killjoy. With Chamber being nerfed this patch mainly in his flank watching capabilities, Killjoy does have the potential to be a viable option again for many teams who really want to run an agent who can hold down their flanks on offense. But honestly, Chamber's playstyle is pretty different from a normal Sentinel's playstyle. So while it isn't a huge opening for her to overtake Chamber in the meta, KJ does now have a new trump card to throw into the mix when it comes to picking Sentinels for your team. Outside of this breakthrough though, Killjoy is still a formidable pick that still functions well in the episode 4 meta. You as a player just need to put in the time to learn and master her kit in order for her to be worth it over the other Sentinels. Skye is back to being the jack of all trades and master of none. If for some reason your team doesn't bring KO or Fade as a skirmishing initiator, Skye can still handle the role of semi-duelist really well. She has an AoE heal, rechargeable flashes, and a dog that's objectively better and faster than Sova's drone now. She still has a lot she can bring to the table even though she's not the monster she used to be from a couple episodes ago. I will admit, one agent I did not see becoming a big player in the episode 4 meta is Breach. In no way, shape, or form did I think that Breach of all agents would become so visible in the meta despite not receiving any nerfs or buffs as of recent. I just think it boils down to a lot of players are valuing skirmishing initiators over second duelists in their team comps, and Breach can skirmish really well. So therefore, a lot of teams are picking him on maps like Fracture, Haven, and Split. Other initiators do offer more than he does with more unique utility than just straight up CC and flashes, which is why he's not a high priority pick in the B tier. There's not much to Breach's rise right now. He hasn't been changed significantly this episode, it's mainly just a lot of people are letting him out of their friend zone and giving him a chance in game. I wish there was a category on a tier list that could be called a good agent but not immediately viable, because that's exactly where we'd place Sage. She's not the best Sentinel in the meta by any means, as she is dwarfed by KJ and Chamber in pick priority, but at the same time, she can be very useful for a team, and sometimes in solo queue, her heal and res can be the difference between your team winning and losing. Sage does have good defensive zone control tools like her wall and slows, but when players learn how to work around her setups, she can't provide anything to a team if her heal and res are down. Old man Cypher is once again holding down the last spot in B tier. KO being a big player in the meta spells bad news for Cypher, since one knife can knock out all of his abilities in a second. This does hamper Cypher's ability to be an effective Sentinel if he can't use his cam, cages, or trips in the heat of a round, and this is mainly why he's at the bottom of B tier. If you aren't a Cypher main, you will get more consistent use out of any of the other Sentinels, especially when you consider how intuitively easy Killjoy and Chamber are. Reyna needs buffs or a rework soon. It's not looking better for her condition in the meta, as double initiators and the rise of Neon and Yoru mean that she won't be a priority duelist pick in the meta for quite some time. Reyna is fairly one-dimensional as an entry fragger, which makes her predictable and even worse, counterable. A lot of players aren't even afraid of her ultimate anymore. If they hear it go off, most players will just avoid her and set up a crossfire to catch her as she pushes up. Reyna is not doing well in the meta, and it's time for the devs to consider giving her major changes. Even though Astra is not a premier main smoker anymore, she has found a use as a CC bot Sentinel hybrid. In pro play, some teams bring a regular controller and then bring an Astra strictly for her CC. While her smokes may not be the best compared to her counterparts, using her suck, stun, and wall effectively can prove mighty useful for some teams. She is still a C-tier agent after her mega nerfs this year, but she can still be used for value if you know how to abuse the CC in her kit in the right situations in game. It's official, Riot has left the British boy wonder to rot in the meta. It's time to get rework Phoenix trending on social media, because that is the only way he will ever return to the meta in the current state of the game. It's ironic to see as soon as one down bad duelist rises like Yoru, another one must fall to take his place, with this episode's sacrifice of choice being Phoenix. Hey, like Thanos said, balanced like all things should be. But for real though, there is no good reason to pick Phoenix over any other duelist or initiator. He brings nothing of value to a team other than his ultimate, and that is already inconsistent as is. We just need to wait until they rework him before we can properly rank him in the game's meta again. Well guys, that's all we have for our patch 4.09 tier list. If you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to check out our website for top tier coaching as well. This has been your host Sergeant Frost, and I'll see you all again in the next one.